That's what, yeah, one of the great benefits of this group is we all got to meet Jeff Arthur.
True.
Oh,
Through
yeah.
Standard Connection. What a great guy.
He certainly is.
Indeed.
He certainly is. He's I get a big kick out of him. He has a fabulous sense of humor, and I enjoy him very much. And he's extremely intelligent on top of that,
Yeah.
which I
And he's a
appreciate.
young whippersnapper.
Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and start with our film tonight. Is A Real Pain in many ways, but it was released November 1st of 2024 in the US and November 8th in Poland. It's starring Kieran Culkin and Jesse Eisenberg. It's written, directed, and produced by Jesse Eisenberg. It's nominated for 2 Academy Awards coming up March 3rd, I believe, for Best Original Screenplay, and then Culkin is up for Best Supporting Actor, which he has already won an award or 2. You can go back, there's a whole list of things that this film has already won. The budget was $3 million and the box office is $19.5 million. So it's done well. I don't know how that splits out between the US and Poland, but it has still done well. It's considered a buddy road comedy / drama. I've never heard of a buddy road comedy before, but okay, that's a good distinction for this. The musical score, for the most part, the classical music was Chopin, because he was Polish. And Eisenberg chose the music, and it's very, very fitting to what they show in the different scenes in the movie. And they also did a good job of the filming. They didn't make it seem like some sort of travel expose. Oh, you ought to come to Poland because of this or that. They beautified it. They made it look so pretty and so gorgeous, and except for the concentration camp, of course, but it just looked like a wonderful place to go visit, Warsaw, Poland. So the story goes that 2 cousins want to go to Warsaw to see where their grandmother had grown up and had lived. She had recently died. They were both very fond of her, but one more than the other. So David, who's played by Jesse Eisenberg, is, I think the cousins are within just a couple of weeks from each other as far as age goes. The other one is Benji. And Benji pretty much took care of grandma and vice versa. And he said he saw her or talked to her every single Thursday. And his comment was, she was my world. So she meant a lot to Benji. So these 2 cousins decide they're headed to Warsaw, and they're going to take a Holocaust tour. Well, on this tour are 4 other individuals that they get to know, as well as the tour director. Each one of these people has what you would call a pain of some sort that gets revealed during the process of the movie. Okay, you have Benji. He's free-spirited and just loves to play, and he's talking to everybody, and he sends a package of weed to the hotel so when he gets to Warsaw, he and his cousin can have some fun. And he's not taking it on the plane, right?
Yeah,
so
right.
They enjoyed that. David is more reserved. He's the family man. He's married. He has a child. He has a job. So he's kind of always in the background of whatever Benji is up to, which is a lot. Let's see. Oh, yes. And he goes, how are your feet?
I know that.
So that threw David off for a little bit. I thought that Benji probably lived at the airport since grandma died. I don't know if any of you are going to think that, but just the way the movie started and how it ended, that's where he was. I don't even know if he had the cell phone that David kept trying to call him and reach him on. I don't think he had it. So I'm going to ask you all to give me your thoughts and answer 2 questions. number one is how are your feet? And number two, what did you see as pain? So who wants
What
to
was
start?
the first one?
How are your
Your
feet?
feet.
It's cool. What? Why?
My feet are a mess.
Well, I was going to get a pedicure tomorrow until I heard what the weather is. But anyway, that's beside the point. But no, I couldn't figure out why that was important, but it was.
Well, he said that his Benji said that David's feet were like his grandma's feet. Remember that part?
Oh yeah, that's right. That's
yeah.
right.
That's the only significance I saw to that.
Right.
It's just again him, Benji, finding ways to sort of, bring Grandma Dory into
Yeah,
their relationship.
yeah. Which was strange. I mean, it was very strange, the relationship. They weren't as close as they were when they were younger cousins and played together and such. They had grown apart so far.
For me, the real pain was putting up with Benji for 2 hours.
Yeah.
That would be a challenge. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Oh.
But he brought the group together. With all of his antics and things that he was doing, and when they were at the statue and they're all, posing and yeah, he was kind of off base for what David needed, I think, for this. But
yeah, I alternated between really liking him as a person and then wanting to punch him in the face.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
he was annoying.
oh,
Well, he
absolutely.
pulled off his part perfectly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which David did punch him in the face at the end of the movie.
Well,
But
that's true.
Yeah,
He slapped
that's
him.
true.
Grandma had done that, and it was okay when Grandma did it, but it wasn't okay when
Yeah.
David did it. But still, oh yeah, he was just as annoying as you can get. Just did stupid stuff on purpose. I think to get people riled up and get things going, but he was also kind of a lost soul.
I fully expected at some point in the movie that he was going to hook up with
Marsha.
Jane, the woman from LA.
Yeah,
Mhm.
baby in the corner.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, Benji had those very broad mood swings where he would be elated and giddy and then he would swing into just irritable and confrontational and I'm always careful not to jump to diagnoses, but a little bipolar there.
Yeah.
Pretty close.
And
Yeah.
he clearly unmedicated except for his own self-medicating.
Right.
That's and the fact that he already had tried to commit suicide, that's not a hopeful combination.
So this is the John
Unmedicated
Candy
bipolar,
character.
yeah.
This
Yeah.
is the John Candy character from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. He lives at the train station and
Yeah.
Oh,
Thought about
Hmm.
that.
that's interesting. Yeah. Huh.
But yeah, you could see when the agitation was really getting, just physically you could see the agitation, and then verbally and body. Kieran Culkin did a fabulous job with that character. He really did.
Yeah. He sure
Yeah.
did. But Karen, one thing that bugged me that he kept doing, he kept scratching his head and messing with his hair the whole time. Was that just some sort of a nervous tick, do you think? But it's like,
Didn't wash his hair. That's all.
Yeah, it could just be he needed a shampoo, but yeah, I kind of think, Chris, what you hit it on the head. It was just that's his, that we all have that little nervous thing that we do, and for him, the hair thing. But yeah.
So what was your takeaway as far as pain, Karen?
But well, when after they left the concentration camp and they were back in the little van, the little bus, and Benji just fell apart. That you could see his absolute pain, but then you also saw with David at the dinner when he actually, told everyone Benji's backstory, how much pain he was in. So it was like everybody had their own, their own version of the pain. But it's like early on, James, the guy from Oxford,
Yeah.
tour, the tour director, he said, this is going to be, this is going to be a painful experience.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, I think the name of the movie, A Real Pain, it's like a kind of shortened version for a real pain in the neck.
Mhm.
But and I think that, initially person might go in there thinking that, but I think a real pain in this case is more like what like Eckhart Tolle or somebody like that would define as a pain that a person carries around inside of themselves, and pain that you can see when they enter the room. And I thought Culkin, he did a great job of doing that. Every time he stepped into the room, you could tell that was a person in pain. So I think that was kind of the meaning of the title and all that, and the main part of it. And I didn't think too much of the other people's pains, but we all have them.
Yeah.
But he had a real pain.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought the same thing. The pain, of course, of just going to a Holocaust tour. I mean, that's, the initial pain, the pain that the two of them had, and the relationship that the two of them had with each other and with the world. David was so reserved and so inward and so structured, and so completely opposite from his cousin, and their days apart or whatever. And I could see how he was so jealous of Benji, because he was the life of the party. At the same time, Benji was so disingenuous with so much. One minute he's yelling at everybody for being in first class going to Poland, when he ends up in first class and then he's fine with it. I mean, it was just
we
like,
deserve it.
yeah, yes. And that before it was we didn't, and then we did.
Right.
There was that push pull that he didn't even recognize, that Benji didn't even recognize the kind of connection he could have had with people. Didn't remember what he said. He didn't remember. And we've all known people that, it's kind of all flash and no substance. They in a way, they explode, they have all this energy and they get everything going, but at the same time, underneath, there's nothing, the real connecting. Whereas David, he wanted to connect. And I think that by the end of the movie, the two of them have learned so much from each other, that maybe David not being a little more spontaneous, not being so reserved, not being too embarrassed about everything. And maybe Benji learned that maybe he has to do a little more introspection than he has. I don't know. Anyway, I enjoyed it. It was, if you enjoy that kind of film, it was a pain, but it was good.
A real pain.
Yeah, a real pain.
Has anybody?
I'd agree with Donna on David. I think there was an arc to that character. I don't think in fact, that final shot of him, at the end of the trip, just staying there in the airport, and there was nothing in his eyes. I mean, that final shot, I think, was devastating.
I know,
I
no,
think
just the airport, because he had nobody else.
So
Yeah.
I don't think I didn't see his character. I don't know. Gary, you're kind of the character arc guy in our group. What do you think?
No, I agree. One of them took something from every scene and every episode and every encounter, and David grew from that and internalized those and became more than when the movie started. His cousin never moved. He was erratic, but he always ended up back in the same empty place. I don't think his character evolved at all. But Jesse wrote the script. What was interesting to me is if you watch the evolution of that character, that was the thing that, that there was an arc too, and there was something satisfying about that. But everything else he wrote around him and these episodes of, manic depressive, so that he could grow. So as a script, I think it was brilliant. And it doesn't look like he made it a star vehicle for himself. He made it a star vehicle for everything else. But he, in the end, is the one who has, the character, the growth. Yeah. I understand why it's a revered screenplay, and it's well done and deserves attention. Yeah.
Yeah, he could be best supporting actor. He could. He was good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and my son said something about, he's played that character again, and he said, it's almost like the actor is stuck in that role, and I don't know what. And Dylan
You mean
said,
Jesse Eisenberg? Yeah.
No, not Jesse. Culkin.
Culkin.
In Succession, I was thinking that he was similar in Succession.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes, that's what he said. He says, he's playing the same character he played on Succession,
exactly.
which I didn't see, but.
Well, you see that in reviews though, where they talk about the film, when they talk about Kieran Culkin's.
He was a more
character in Succession. Yeah.
he was more sophisticated, but that same manic kind of behavior. Yeah.
And interviews with Kieran Culkin, he tried to get out of it. He didn't want the role right away.
Yeah, he said he was surprised that he even got the role, So
he's not Jewish.
No, he is not. He's Irish Catholic.
Yeah.
And I also read that Jesse Eisenberg, he wanted to play that character, but got talked out of it by the producers.
Yeah, that'd be
really.
That'd be interesting because I think
too many hats. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he said it'd be too much for him to do. Exactly right. So
well, he plays a good neurotic,
He's like a Woody Allen. Yeah. Yeah. He has that, self-deprecating, unsure. Yeah.
Well, if you think about that, if he's the screenwriter and he has written that part for somebody to be that bombastic, and then he's written it for himself and then pulls himself back and goes, no, I think somebody else could be more of that than I can be. That's quite the decision.
Yeah.
That, it'd be interesting and I've seen interviews with him where, he's as neurotic in person as he is on screen.
He is.
Really?
So it's surprising that he would think that well, I suppose as an actor, but I can't even imagine him in that role.
No, he would have to really stretch.
Yeah, that'd be an amazing. That'd be
the role that he played, I just figured he, that was
it was him.
He didn't have to stretch too far.
So
he's made so much money from inventing the Facebook that
right? Not that much. Nerd. Yeah.
So speaking of the money thing, Chris,
yes,
you said it made 12 million, and what did it cost?
3
million was the budget, and the box office was 19.5.
I don't understand that because it's on Hulu for free. It's got to be a Hulu movie. How to make $12 million?
Well, it was at the theater.
It just came out in November.
Yeah,
I saw it in November. I think Bill did too, right, Bill?
Yeah, I did. We were talking about it.
Yeah.
In theaters.
Yeah,
in the theater. Yeah.
That's a lot of box office in 90 days.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's U.S. and Poland added together. I don't know how they did that.
What did the Polish people think of the movie?
I don't know.
Oh.
I didn't read anything about that.
Has anybody been to Poland?
Been to
You
Poland?
have.
I haven't, no.
Beautiful.
I
It's
have
beautiful. One of the
Yes.
most underrated places. Spectacular.
Yeah.
Well, that's like I haven't been to Poland, but the scenes when they were going out to the death camp and everything, I was struck. I mean, that looked like the Midwest to me. That looked like Iowa, parts of Missouri. You know, and I guess Poland is going to a big agrarian country, breadbasket and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
We went to Auschwitz,
okay.
Yeah.
which is sobering, but surrounding area was beautiful.
Yeah.
So Mahoney, what did you think of the film then?
Um,
The scenery.
I thought it was an interesting movie. Like I said, I went back and forth throughout the entire movie, thinking that Benji was either just a jerk and was insufferable, and then he came across as a pretty engaging guy, and so I ended up on a lot of the movie going, which Benji is going to show up in this particular scene. But I liked it. I was told it was supposed to be sort of a sad movie, and I didn't find it to be sad at all. So I enjoyed it.
Jeff, Mike M.
My feet are fine. Thank you.
Back to the original question.
Yeah. And to the second question, I think that what I saw in Culkin's character was that Benji's character, that he absorbed everybody else's pain. After his experience at the camp, he was overwrought with that, and he took in all the environments he was in and kind of like a sponge soaked them up and reacted to them. He didn't continue that. He was very spontaneous, and he kind of did things on an ad hoc basis all the time, and then he was on to the next thing, which maybe goes along with the bipolar concept. But I found that he was like almost an empath when he was with the other people. He kind of soaked up what they were doing and tried to react to it, and I thought that was an interesting side of his character. He would be, to somebody who is trying to live in a structured situation, he would be almost intolerable because he just was not cut out for that at all. So I could understand that concept of the real pain, but he brought pain into himself all the time, I think, and kind of suffered with that. And that's probably what led to his suicide attempt. And in my mind, all those things kind of fit together. I thought it was a great character, and I thought the interplay between the two of them was really good as well. David's character at the end, when they were parting at the airport, he really tried to bring Benji into his family to give him a foothold on some kind of normal life. But that's just not what Benji's about. He doesn't want to have that kind of a life. And so he declined, and there he is sitting in the airport, saying, there are a lot of interesting people to meet at the airport. That's his milieu. He likes to be out there among different people and different things. So I thought that was consistent with the character too.
But in the end, he isn't doing anything. He's just sitting there with those empty eyes.
But he has a
engaging.
chance to interact and react with the various people who flow through an airport, which is a weird place to hang out.
And he might be,
but his
he
cousin
might be reacting. I'm sorry, go ahead.
But his cousin was giving him an opportunity to get her back into
normal,
his family's life. So I mean, he passed that up. And to Jeff's point, another great illustration of Benji's taking over a moment was at the Warsaw Ghetto sculpture where he got everybody involved, save for his cousin up there posing and fighting with the Polish underground. I mean, he brought everybody into it.
Yeah.
And then he had that piano playing episode. That was kind of,
Yeah.
Yeah, that was weird.
Or when he confronted James in the cemetery, I mean, it was really aggressive towards James. And wouldn't, wouldn't back down. But then later James turns around and says how meaningful, how, nobody ever tells me these things. And, I'm thinking about this completely differently. And that was kind of like, wow, okay.
And they reacted well at the end when they departed from each other. James thanked him for broadening how he looks at these tour groups. And
Right.
Yeah.
And poor David was just looking on that same feeling of, God, somebody that like him is able to get people to connect with him so easily, where David doesn't connect that easily and tries to. It's interesting the way their interaction worked, the two of them. He could just look at him, and that's how he'd like to be, but couldn't be. Yeah, maybe.
Each
So
one
is it
to be the other.
the consensus of everyone that he had not changed at all, and by the end of the movie, he was still likely to hurt himself? He attempted suicide, right? And that was the big issue, right? That his cousin didn't want him to do that, didn't want him to hurt himself again.
that's why I wanted him to come home.
And but is that kind of what everybody's saying, that he hadn't changed at all? He was still a threat to himself.
Well,
I think so.
I don't know. I think he did change a little.
Yeah.
I think going and seeing his grandmother's house and do everything that the whole, I don't know. I just got a sense, that was just my take. I got a sense that the two of them kind of changed each other a little bit. Certainly David changed, at least recognizing how he is himself. I don't know if Benji recognized it, but I think he had to have thoughts. He had to have thoughts sitting there and going over that whole, what he'd just been through, all the people that he met that he'll never see again, and all the people in the airport. He does connect, he connects to people. But
he does say to him, "I'll be okay," or something like that. So maybe that's the indication. I don't know.
Yeah.
After seeing the whole thing, and I kind of felt kicked in the teeth by the very end that was it. He's going back to sit in the airport, and there's no resolution of anything.
No.
David goes back to his normalcy, and Benji goes to his weirdness, and we don't get any resolutions, which is fine. It's their movie.
Yeah, no Hollywood ending. Yeah.
It's the old, and they were all run over by a truck.
It seemed like with the
But
grandmother's
after looking at the
house.
whole thing, go ahead, Donna.
No, Karen.
It's just with the grandmother's house that felt a little anticlimactic,
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
very
yeah.
anticlimactic.
Yeah.
Very anticlimactic.
Yeah. So I don't know that had. I didn't see it having any kind of an impression on either of the the in terms of seeing her, sort of this nondescript kind of house where they put this
And they didn't go inside.
grumpy old
or
neighbor,
anywhere.
just fusses at
Don't
them.
put the rocks
Yeah.
on there.
Yeah, and then they just leave. Of course, they put the rocks in their pockets, and eventually you see David,
Yeah.
take a rock out of his pocket and put it on his, porch
Yeah.
stairs.
Yeah.
But
What I thought was when they arrived there, they expected to see more than what was there. And grandma didn't grow up in this nice.
I think they wanted a gingerbread house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
it was this very, very plain, very nondescript place.
Yeah.
Then she grew up and they wanted more, and it just wasn't there.
What I was
Get a
going to
little
say was,
preview of that though earlier on when James is walking them through Warsaw and saying, you know, this is all of this is that Soviet era architecture.
Yeah.
It's nothing, you know,
Mhm.
there's nothing remarkable about it. And that's what they encounter when they come back around to wherever that was outside of Lublin. That Dory, you know, Grandma Dory it was again just very, you know.
Nothing. Yeah.
I thought there had to be some suspension of belief for Benji even going on the trip. I don't even know how that came
I
to
think the
be other
grandmother,
than the
yeah,
screenplay.
the grandmother left him money, so it was
No, I
like
get
last
that,
wish.
but I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
I don't even know that I see him opting in for that trip.
Why not?
I think he has these wild things and interactions with everybody, but I think he's grounded in like the airport, like a certain thing. I don't think it's, oh, let's go have this experience and this one, and I know he had the experience of near death and he had the experience of that. I just don't see him as a guy who would have said, yeah, let's go take a trip and tour Auschwitz. Or whatever the camp was. I don't know. I get grandma was important, but I guess I wonder if that's a trip he would have agreed to do.
I think so, because he's wanting to grab on to something more to believe in and to learn about his grandmother. I mean, she was gone, so okay, let's take this trip. This is where she lived. I can remember all of this, and you know, where she grew up, where she went to school, whatever the case may be. It was just more that he could have memories of her.
I think a lot of people have a desire to look deeper into their roots sometimes for almost an inexplicable reason. What are you going to find there? It's probably going to be something. There's not very much left of the person. It kind of brings home how evanescent our lives are in the first place. But trying to reach out and kind of touch something that is where you came from. There's a cemetery up in Northwest Missouri where I have a bunch of relatives buried, and there are all these old gravestones. I walk around in there sometimes and think, I bet there's nobody coming out to look at these anymore. They're just, you know, they're old, and the families have already left the area, or they don't even know they're there, or they've all died off or whatever. So I kind of got it's kind of a dark viewpoint, but I kind of got a sense of that when they were visiting the house, and then they were, you know, out in the fields and so forth. They're just a little speck zooming along through the countryside, but the countryside is going to be there for as long as there's anything. I also wanted to say, this is on a completely different note, but you're talking about buddy road movies. There was this little thing about Bob Hope and Bing Crosby that took place in the past, and it was just a little tiny thing that made a bunch of movies.
It's the exact definition of what Chris
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that.
On the
Jerry
road.
Lewis and Dean.
Yeah. And what's Dorothy
Lamore. Dorothy
Lamore,
Lamore.
that's
yes,
right.
Dorothy Lamore. Yeah.
Yeah.
The love interest. Yeah.
or Tommy Boy.
We should watch one of those sometime.
Yeah. Yeah.
Might be a good one. Yeah.
Well,
I don't think we discussed this. What was the real pain that he was carrying?
Which person? Benji or David?
Well, I think Benji was the one that was carrying the real pain. I mean, everybody else was, you know. So what was it? What was the real pain?
Well, I think it's like you described, a real pain in the neck.
Yeah. I mean, I think he was carrying the pain of his Jewish heritage. You know, I think that was the pain that he carried that kind of overwhelmed him.
Or a pain of at least to that point in his life, of an unfulfilled life. I thought it was really interesting, Chris, when you said it almost right off the bat. You didn't believe that that Benji had a home, that he lived at the airport. That was one of my immediate takeaways too.
Okay, good.
At the end of the movie, and so you know, and then he rejects his cousin's overture to rejoin the family. So I think that might have been part of his pain.
Mm-hmm. So you think he just stayed at the airport looking for new adventures or just new people?
Yes. Yes and yes. I don't think he had a home.
Well, he had lived in his mother's basement.
Yeah, he did.
Discussion at the table where David was talking about how grandma
Right, that's right.
what a first generation, second generation, third generation lives in their mother's
Mother's basement, smokes pot all day.
Yeah, that was
Right.
that was
Right.
Benji. So, but so I guess maybe he had a place. If he had to, he could go back to.
Yeah.
But I think Chris might be onto that. Once he got to the airport,
He's coming in.
how long he's going to stay? Yeah.
He's done testifying.
Yeah.
Sure
Well, I
is.
think
There he
so.
is.
Hey there.
Hey,
Hey, there he
The
is.
final word.
Wow, I should be late more often. Oh.
How did your testimony go?
I mean, it was fine. Whoever was administering it was really screwing it up. They had me down as, you're an attendant at first, and then when you're getting ready to speak, they put you into as a participant, but you have no control over when your video pops up or if you can speak or anything until the administrator does it. So I don't know, they kept screwing everybody up. A bunch of people didn't get to speak. So anyway,
but you did.
I said my spiel.
Okay.
Good.
Was there any feedback about the receptivity to the idea?
Not that I could tell. No.
Okay,
They're
that's a
pretty
shame.
stone-faced.
Yeah.
No doubt.
I was asking earlier, is there any opposition to this, Jeff?
No, not like, no, we don't want that. There's another bill that has 7 different new plates on it, like all together. So I
Gotcha.
don't know if if you go for one, if you don't go for the other, I don't know if the competition is going to mean something, but I mean, the other ones are dumb, but whatever.
Everybody's got an ox to gore or a
Our
dollar to get
state,
slipped in their pocket.
Washington State already has, before these ones they're just introducing, they have 67 different specialty plates already for everything you can think of, and which is crazy because they're very difficult to get done. It's not an easy chore, but
Wow.
yeah. Anyway,
What do you think of the movie?
I saw the trailer and I was going to watch it late last night, but I found out I couldn't rent it. I could only buy it for $10. So I decided to go to bed.
Really?
Hulu. You can see it on Hulu.
Yeah, I could have done the Hulu 2 thing for a trial for, I think it was $10 too, but.
I thought a trial was free.
Oh,
Yeah.
right. Yeah. It was free for a month and then $10 a month.
Yeah.
As long as you disconnect it.
Yeah, exactly.
But the movie's free on there. If you ever get a chance, you might enjoy it. But.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the trailer was awesome. I mean, it would look like something I'd want to see.
Okay.
So,
I didn't see the trailer, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I watched it when it came out, and like Karen did, and then I thought I'm probably not going to watch it again because I just saw it. But then I went ahead and watched it again, and I was really glad I did because I almost liked it better the second time. I think I thought
I agree. Yeah.
Culkin's performance was better, seemed better to me, and the whole thing. I just liked it the second time. I don't know. I don't know why. It seemed very dramatic and well acted and compelling. So I was glad I watched it the second time.
Yeah.
Did you watch it a second time, Karen?
I did. Oh yeah, I just watched it yesterday.
I did
I
too,
agree
yeah.
with you, Bill. I think I got more, you know, a little more out of it the second time through.
Second time around, yeah. Yeah.
Well, I originally watched this week before last, and I was going to do some mushy Valentine movies. So y'all ought to be grateful that I watched this and chose it instead. That's not to say that mushy Valentine movie won't still come up at some point in time, but it's going to be at least eight or 9 weeks.
Right.
Well, thanks for making this choice, not the mushy Valentine.
Karen said, "What happened to your Valentine movie? I thought you were going to do something." I said, "No, this one's better."
Yeah.
And it is.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
So
I was thinking, and especially I'm going to address the guys, except for Jeff with a G, he's too young. But you know, thinking about it's, you know, it's 2025. It was 80 years ago that World War II ended. 80 years ago. But when we were kids, like early 60s, you know, 8, 9, 10-year-old kids, it was less than 20 years, you know, and that's at least in my neighborhood, all the boys, they played World War II. They played, you know, Americans and Germans. They played it, you know, and you know, they all had their plastic, you know, weapons.
Yeah.
Fell out of favor in the 80s and 90s, but in the 50s and 60s, oh man. And it just boggles, you know, kind of boggles my mind to think, no, that now that's, you know, 80 years ago that World War II ended.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know. Well, you know, I think why, at least in my family, I had uncles that were in World War II. So,
Oh, yeah.
so when you have relatives and my one uncle, had PTSD, but they called it shell shock back then. And I remember, you know, at the time wondering what that was, but and mom kind of explaining it to me, but it was just all I knew is that it was something that was really awful. And I don't ever remember playing nurse or playing a war with my brother or anything like that, but I do remember how we all never wanted to disturb my uncle if he was in one of those moments. So that's what I remember.
Well, in that same time period, the late 60s and in particular, there were 2 very popular comic books that I read. One was a DC comic with a guy by the name of Sergeant Rock and Easy Company, and then there was another guy by the name of Nick Fury and his Howling Commandos. That was a Marvel comic before. Before they got into, you know, well, actually, just as they started to get into the other superheroes, and there were TV programs, Combat.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
It was on. The Desert Rats were on. I mean, hell, they made a prison camp of a
comedy.
Oh, the comedy, yeah.
Hogan's Heroes.
Hogan's Heroes, right? Oh my God,
that's true.
So a lot of military stuff like the Phil Silvers show.
Yeah. Dick Van Dyke's show used to have flashback episodes when he was in the
army, or the USO, yeah.
Not to mention a bunch of great movies like Stalag 17.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway.
So my dad was one of the first soldiers to reach Dachau.
Oh boy.
Yeah. You sent us that discussion that he had of some of his services. That was pretty great.
Yeah. And he
did he talk about it, Bill?
He did a memoir.
Oh my!
It's available online if you ever want to read it. But yeah, he carried a lot of those pains, the concussions, all that stuff. But writing that memoir at the end was a way of letting it out.
Yeah. Well, again, off the subject, but I will recommend it just because it's kind of the same. I was watching Remarkable Women, which is like a series all different women that they talk about. And one of them was Dr. Ruth Westheimer. And oh my God, she was a sniper in the Israeli, and there's so much about her and World War II and how her thoughts about it. I was and her parents were killed in Birken or Auschwitz, I'm not sure, but anyway, her parents were killed, and she talks about the whole experience and how she got into the underground and how she got into, you know, becoming a sex therapist. I mean, so there's like 12 episodes of different women, Amelia Earhart, there's a bunch of different women, but I thought that Ruth Westheimer was just amazing what she went through as a little girl, and watched her father being taken away and him waving to her. And then she got to Switzerland and was in a from 10 years old until 17, she was in a school and you know, helped teach. So it's a real interesting story. If and it was just all about World War II and what she had to go through. It's just very interesting, I thought.
Well, I mean, you know, to that end, it's been 40 years since we've had a president that served in any combat anywhere.
Right.
I mean, the last one was George Bush, 41. He was a pilot that got shot down
Right.
in the Pacific, but his son didn't, Clinton didn't, Trump certainly didn't, Obama didn't. You know,
No.
we may go 50 years without having anybody that has ever served in a war zone. Not that
It does seem like there's a lot of military guys who are running for Congress, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can. They'll have
Or
their guns on their
quasi-military
shoulder.
guys.
Yeah.
Well, it was real good. Good
Who's
movie.
who's got next?
Yeah. Who's
Me,
next?
Karen.
I'm next. So before I tell you my pick, I also had a recommendation because it was the movie I was going to pick, except it's only available on Apple Plus. It's an Apple Plus. It's an Apple exclusive. So I didn't pick it because not everybody has Apple Plus. But for those that do, and I watched it. I really enjoyed it. It's called Argylle, Argylle. It's a spy. It's a spy movie, and features Henry Cavill and Sam Rockwell.
Oh yes.
And it's the premise is that there's a young woman. She's a writer. She's kind of, a cat lady. She doesn't have much of a life, but she writes these spy books with Argylle is the name of her, her quote unquote James Bond. So, and then as the movie unfolds, there's lots of layers, and it's pretty interesting. Catherine O'Hara is in it. She's really good. The guy that was the Breaking Bad guy. I never can think of his name, but yeah. Is it?
Jesse?
No, the old guy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so it's if you that was the one that I didn't pick, but I am in a mood for a spy movie. And speaking of the early 60s, so I picked a movie that's set in the early 60s, but it's from 2015. It's called The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Oh,
Also Henry Cavill, who, if you didn't know, he is going to be the next James Bond. And Hugh Grant and Armie Hammer.
Yeah.
And it's on Netflix for free. It's on Prime for like $3.99. And then it's a Guy Ritchie, wrote it and directed it. So
Yeah.
that's our pick for next week.
So not the series,
That's great.
not the series, The Man from U.N.C.L.E. then.
No,
No,
the
No,
movie,
no,
no,
2015.
no David
movie.
McCollum or anything.
2015.
David McCallum. Oh my God, yeah.
2015. I thought that was a really old movie.
Well,
Wasn't
it's
it?
from 2015.
Well,
That's 10 years
series
ago.
was.
Yeah.
No, I meant like
Every-
the 60s or
Every,
something.
Well, there was a
everything's
TV
relevant.
show. There was a
It used to
TV
be
show
a
in the
TV
60s.
series,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, it was a TV
It-
series in the
based on.
60s.
But it's a Guy Ritchie, so it's not. I mean, the TV series in the 60s was much tamer than this
Oh,
movie.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
The series probably gave rise to Get Smart.
Yeah, probably,
Yeah.
Oh, God,
probably.
yes.
And then David McCallum ended up on, wasn't he on NCIS or something?
Yeah, for a long time as Ducky.
Yeah, that's right.
I'll bet
Yeah,
you.
he's
I'll bet,
great.
I'll bet you there was a Man from U.N.C.L.E. movie spun off from the TV show in the 60s. It wouldn't
Could have
surprise
been.
me at all.
There might have
It
been,
didn't
yeah.
get
I
up.
don't remember, but there might have been.
Who was the man from Uncle Robert?
Vaughn.
Vaughn,
Vaughn.
Robert
right.
Vaughn. Yeah,
Napoleon Solo.
yes,
Right.
Napoleon Solo.
Ilya Kuryakov.
And Ilya
Yeah, that's
Kuryakov,
right.
yeah.
Oh my gosh. You guys
Oh my
remember all that.
God.
Wow.
He was the tech guy.
Mhm, right. Right.
Mm-mm-mm.
Well, that would be good.
Yeah, and Jeff, the trailer's really good.
You'll
Right.
enjoy it.
You'll enjoy
It's the
it.
Cliff
yeah.
Note version.
Right, right.
Touche.
Oh, that's funny.
Okay, I'm gonna go have dinner, gang.
All right.
See ya.
Man
Take
from
care,
U.N.C.L.E.
buddy.
next week.
Andrew,
All right.
until
See you,
next
Mike.
Good
week.
pick.
All right. Thanks,
Okay,
Chris.
thank
That
you.
it? Are we out of here?
I guess
Okay.
we're out.
Yes, sir.
Think so.
All right, see
We
ya.
are.
Shut her
All
down
right.
to the
Bye,
cloud.
Thanks,
all.
everybody.
Bye.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Oh, thank you. You too. Bye now.
See ya.
Bye.